What is great, good, and real? Good morning, and God bless. It's been 2 days. Let us get to work. If you don't own your attention will own you. You didn't say yes, but you never said no. You didn't submit, but you never stood up. You didn't fall, but you stopped climbing. And worst of all, you called it peace when it was really permission. Warning: this episode exposes silent soul theft, not by demons, not by drama, but by decisions you never made out loud. Side effects may include spiritual nausea from choices that weren't yours, disorientation around what the hell you're even working toward, delayed grief for goals you accidentally gave away, explosive realizations that your grind is a glorified escape plan, and withdrawal symptoms from half-built priorities and fragmented focus. Welcome to Raw for Epoch 2, day 147. We're going to the Dominion Divide reboot. When priorities drift in silence, because sometimes the most dangerous distractions don't show up as options. They show up as obligations. Let's get straight into our concept overview. We're talking again and revisiting and going a bit deeper into what we talk about here on the Do You Rules, Dominion Divide. Dominion ain't about control, although we want control. It's about clarity. When your soul loses track of what it's truly called to carry, the system defaults to what it's already familiar with. And familiar doesn't mean aligned. It means rehearsed. It means convenient. My grandfather would say convenient. Can't say the V. It means prescripted by somebody else. This episode exposes what happens when your core priorities get allocated by unconscious survival patterns and how to reclaim the authority you never meant to give away. Here is what you will learn. Why silent compliance is the most dangerous form of drift. How systemic fatigue is often just soul misalignment in disguise. Why emotional overwhelm is usually just a priority leak. How to identify the exact moment your crown fell off. And the daily system override required to claim true authorship. Where the chat at? It's not ready to pop yet. We're going to get into our visual metaphor. Picture this. Immerse yourself. Imagine you're standing on a freeway. There's 10 lanes of traffic speeding towards you. You nervous yet? All of them are labeled with urgent things. Emails, deadlines, expectations, kids, bills, validation, pressure, proving, pleasing, avoiding, explaining. And here you are in the middle, trying to dance between lanes, dodging deadlines while dragging a dream. Until you realize you never chose the freeway. You never chose the traffic. You never even chose the exit. You just woke up on it because you stopped remembering you could build your own damn road. Let's get into my personal perspective for the day while you out there dodging fake traffic, worrying about that email that means absolutely nothing to life. Let me preface this off the rip as straight as I can. I used to think dominion, and I think domination, I like the idea of domination, I just do. I used to think it was about control over my life. But the deeper I go, the more I realize dominion is about authorship. And authorship, we use these words a lot here, ain't just what you create, it's what you consciously choose to carry. You want to know the most dangerous part of drifting? You don't know you're drifting because everything still looks like movement. You are performing, you are progressing, you are building. But what you're actually doing is scripting somebody else's scroll while forgetting you had a pen too. I'm going to reference something I've read before. The study on the rats getting shocked. One had a lever to stop the pain, the other didn't. Same shock, the only difference, perceived control. You dig what I'm saying? So I started asking, who's been pushing the buttons in my life? It's not always my wife. My job, my roles, my title. How about the cultural inheritance I never opted into but still obey? Or me? You see, when you're really conscious, when you truly start watching yourself, it doesn't stop there. Because you start watching you watch you. You observe the observer, and suddenly there's no escape route. I was just reading about this today. If you consider that everybody has to be watched because in some shape or form we need to be policed, and we need to consider that things are going on that we need to know about, and somebody needs to know who needs to know who needs to know to keep everything copacetic. Consciously, when you start to watch yourself, you just can add infinite to it. You watch what you watch, what you watch, what you watch, what you watch. Exhausting, but powerful. I also read today, which we'll talk about in a future episode, either today or tomorrow, that the only route, and this is mathematically proven, somebody won a Nobel Prize for it. The only way to continue to grow is to become more unstable. And that the greater the scale, think 10 toothpicks and a house made out of 10 toothpicks. It's more stable than a house made of 101 toothpicks, because the more toothpicks you add, the more it might wobble. However, you get to 101, you're growing. So there's stability and instability as long as your instability is pushing you towards growth. That is called evolution. So you observe the observer who's observing the observer who's observing the observer, and suddenly you just keep going and going and going. And that's how, in my opinion, you start to reach God and you touch the infinite. You bring your soul to the forefront of the conscious possibility. You are the eye of the pyramid. And that's why I say there's no escape route. Once you are watching you, watch you, watch you, consciously, no escape route. So you catch every drift. I can't give myself, I haven't been on the mic for 2 days. It was unintentionally intentional. I had some priorities I had to get to. But it's crazy. You start to say, I did a lot these last 2 days. Do I actually need a break from the mic? Because it wasn't really a break. It was me having other priorities. Nope. You know why? That would be drifting. You clock every compromise. You witness every betrayal to the future you said you wanted. Where the chat at? You bringing your future you with you? Every time you lose dominion and you divide the authorship from your life and you hand over your pen, you are betraying your future you. And the significance is you said you wanted that future for you. We're going to get deeper later. What do you think happens to yourself consciously when you keep giving up on yourself? Here's what I learned in that mirror loop. If I outsource authority to a dream that doesn't align with my spirit, if I leak my identity to a room, a person, a temporary high, I'm the one that has to watch me do it. Not God, not my wife, not my kids, me, moi. And the more I watch myself drift, the more unbearable it becomes to lie to myself about who's responsible. Do you hear what I'm saying? When you watch you, watch you, watch you, and you have that level of accountability, everything else is a lie. And when you can understand the system of consciousness, the system of spirit, aligning yourself with your root source and driving towards an apex priority, opting in, spiritually interoperable, all those things we talk about regularly, it is unbearable to quit on yourself. It's unbearable to lie to yourself. But you still have to process the emotion of it. You have to process the logic and the thought. You don't exclude it. You don't, I don't want the words dilute. You don't ignore it or repress it. You understand it's always a possibility. But you have to learn to make it unbearable to lie to yourself about your future you. So at that point, you only got two options. Own the authorship. Stay conscious. Carry the weight. Once seen, it can't be unseen. That's the first option. The second, you kill the observer. Go numb. Surrender to the system. Convince yourself that control was never yours to begin with. But here's the warning I have to give. If you kill the observer, if you stop watching yourself, you don't just give up authorship. You give up your right to complain, to bitch and moan, to create, to become, because you'll drift so far that silence will feel like peace. And survival will start to sound like God. But that ain't God. That's half obedience dressed up as strategy. It's comfort masquerading as self-love. It's fear in costume whispering. It's okay to rest right here forever. That is what this Dominion Divide reboot is for me. A full confrontation with my unwatched self, because every moment I stop watching is another moment I drift into somebody else's scroll, and I'm done with being ghostwritten. I've already exposed myself too much. I've already driven down the path too far. I've already understand the authority that's available to me through God to ever let it go again. And that, more than anything else, is the wish of Do You rules. Do you rule your life? Are you listening to God's whisper, however you describe God? Are you aware of what you are aware of? Are you watching yourself? Are you elevating to the eye of the pyramid where you can see and you are the observer constantly? So for all those conspiracy theorists who believe the pyramid's eye has to be held up by the lowly bottom, it's just that those at the bottom refuse to hear and see for themselves. So they rely on the view from the top. And the view from the top always has to view and watch and observe and look and write so that the people on the bottom can continue to follow. And wrap that up and contextualize it however you want in whatever theory of conspiracy or whatever, and whomever is against you for all that is against you for as long as they've been against you for all your generations. Whatever. It's true if you believe it. But the difference is your viewpoint. Why do I push towards God? Apex. Why do we talk about illuminating yourself towards the light so you can see? I promise you, if you start to see, you won't want to stop seeing. If you start to watch, you won't want to stop watching. Or you'll choose to stop watching, and at least you can live better with yourself. Let's go to the Black Book for today, man. Dominion is the energetic blueprint of authorship. From a spiritual neurobiology perspective, your brain does not default to vision, it defaults to safety. That means your nervous system and your spiritual alignment have to consciously co-author new patterns daily to avoid re-entering collective comfort loops. Your spirit needs to know where it needs to go, and the nervous system of your life has to follow nervously forward, unstably towards stability. Through the micro for the macro, the baby steps that get you ultimately to the sprint for your life. Here's the breakdown. There's a neurological reality. I did some research for you, put some big scientific words in there. The brain's limbic system will choose familiar pain over unknown growth. So if your priority isn't daily reinforced with emotional charge, it will be overwritten by whatever stressor has the loudest voice. Here's the problem. The world is loud. If you don't script your dominion, the world will. If you don't claim your attention, your trauma will. Your nervous system, your biology, your neurology, your chemical makeup, your mind, your soul, your spirit will default to the comfort level that you allow yourself. It's built and wired that way. So at some point, whether you were conscious or not, something scripted you, imprinted on you, wrote your code. And you keep, why do I keep defaulting back? Why do I keep having the same outcomes? It's because that's always what's happened to you. And it will continue to persist and perpetuate out. If you aren't watching you, the world is watching you, and the world is dictating your pace. And that within itself is traumatic. I'm trying to explain and express. When you lose dominion over your life, essentially you live in a traumatic state of paralysis in your mind. You're so scared to write your own version. You're so scared to build your own identity. You're so scared of failing, you just default. And you can't rationalize it. Why? Because you keep inundating yourself in the noise of the world. The way the world tells you to socially behave. I have nothing against it. I have nothing to demean or express in negative context. It's just what it is. If you have complaints, they're likely the very same complaints. Reprocessing the very same emotions, reprocessing the very same trauma, looped. Open your eyes and look and see. Write it down. See what happens. Tell me that I'm not losing my mind. Spiritual implication. Dominion is not dominance. It is sacred sovereignty. You don't rule by force, although sometimes force is needed. You rule by clarity. The more you drift from divine priority, the more you inherit somebody else's scroll and you lose authorship. Ambiguity cannot exist when you are following your own vision. You must be clear and concise. You must have a priority. Do any research, follow any mode of operation, any cult or religious authority, dogma. networking, math, science, folks who have found a way to the top of the mountain, they tell you the same thing. You focus in, you have clarity, you pick a direction, you don't deviate. Collective consciousness risk. The plague of modern man isn't just distraction, it's delegated vision. Cowardice of man is conformity. Conformity is the cowardice of man. We don't just copy others, we internalize their blueprint and call it God. That is how spiritual imposter syndrome is born. That is how silent rebellion spreads. That's how half-built homes become haunted with ambition and shame. If you don't prioritize your dominion daily, your soul will eventually file for custody and your body will call it burnout. There's consequences. Here are the consequences of inaction when you don't have dominion over your soul, over your life, over your pen. You'll build momentum towards a mission that's not even yours. You'll start defending jobs, relationships, and responsibilities you secretly resent. I had this conversation over the weekend. I've been saying yes to things I don't want to say yes to, and it's making me despise myself. Imagine that. I feel so terrible saying no because of what they'll think about me that I neglect what I think about myself. So I resent saying yes. I resent while I'm doing what I said yes to, I'm resenting it. And now I resent myself when I'm left alone in silence. That's part of the breakthrough. You go from defending to understanding, yo, this is not good. Why? Because I said so. And then that secret resentment comes to the forefront. And if it doesn't come to the forefront consciously, you'll release it subconsciously and you'll do it to the ones you love the most. Why do we hurt the people we love the most? They're the closest. It's the easiest to say I'm sorry to. These are the consequences. You'll lie to your spirit with language like, this is really just a season, when it's really a sentence. You're doing a life bid. You'll start breaking promises, not out of rebellion, but exhaustion. And worst of all, you'll master the art of performing clarity while quietly living off somebody else's scroll. It's consequences. Here's how to lock daily remembrance, because we don't want to be stuck in those consequences. Here's the first thing you can do. I offer you as a possibility. Create a daily priorities post check. Ask yourself 3 times a day, am I moving for God or just moving? If the answer isn't rooted in your soul level apex, pause and recalibrate. What is the whisper? Am I moving towards the me I said I would be? If it's not, that means you are totally ignoring your soul. Recalibrate. That's an opportunity. Check yourself morning, afternoon, and evening. Am I moving for God or just moving? Don't just move across the timeline of your life. Here's another thing you can do here. Set priority over performance. Don't let hustle disguise misalignment. Validate your movements by their alignment, not their applause. Or if I say yes to these 11 people, they'll like me more. While they get to do what they want to do, and you're stuck doing for them what you don't want to do. Apply that across the spectrum of your life, your relational experiences. Is this aligned with my soul? Does this make me better? Does this contribute to my apex? If the answer is no, kill it. I think I've said this. If I haven't said it, I've said it in recent conversations. Put yourself on do not disturb. Find a life do not disturb button. And only move in the direction that you need to move that gets you where you need to go. Then you want to narrow the noise. Use SIP plus opt-in to reset real time. SIP, spiritual interoperability protocol. Opt-in, one priority at a time. Ask yourself, what system am I in? What mask am I wearing? What's the priority that owns this moment? Some of us are so inundated in the non-authorship of our lives that we don't even appreciate the priority we're working on is not ours. Why? Because we didn't dictate the terms and conditions. Immediately identify, what system am I in? What system am I in? If you're in 9 to 5 right now, that may be, or you got to cash a check every week or two. Optimize it to prepare yourself for the next role. I say it all the time. If you can afford to drop out, go ahead. If you can't, optimize your role. Understand the mask. Understand the responsibilities that come with each mask. I stay in the lane of the mask I'm in when I'm in it. When I'm a father, that means I don't worry about podcasting, but I'm still the podcaster. I'm not going to stop to script. I'm not going to stop to organize my next drop. No, I did that. When I'm working out, I'm working out. When I'm eating, I'm eating. When I'm resting, I'm resting. What mask are you wearing? What is the priority that owns this moment? Is it expansion? Is it knowledge transfer? Is it relationship building? I talked about this as far as over the weekend. My insistence on autodidactism. Are you teaching yourself right now? And if you're teaching yourself, can you apply what you've learned? Can you master it? Are you scaling it? Can you teach it? Are you releasing it? What's the priority? Should you be following right now? Should you be leading? Should you be leading through silence? Should you be speaking a bit more? What's the priority? Let's get into our phone tap. Here are things you can do today. ARR, covenant, loop, audit, remix, re-record. You got the call. No ringtone today. Maybe you vibrate. I don't know. Move like it's recorded. We start with an audit. Ask yourself this. When in your life are you moving on autopilot? What priority have you been performing that was never consciously chosen? Here's an example. You've been pouring into your team at work, but not because they are your calling. Because it keeps you from confronting your calling. Maybe some of you are so gifted and talented at leadership that you need to go educate other leaders. Maybe you need to go speak somewhere. Maybe you need to nurture a bit more. Maybe you got to take what you do at the office and bring it home with you in the regards of nurture and lead your family more. Some of us are great 9 to 5. Why do we feel so fractured at home? Same principles should apply. There's a hierarchy. Sometimes my wife is the boss and she's making the decisions. Sometimes I am. Sometimes the four of us are working together. Sometimes I need to work on something alone. Sometimes it's just my wife and I, maybe just my wife and my daughter. Same thing at work. Roles and responsibilities. Then you want to hit them with the remix. What thought pattern convinced you this drift was acceptable? What narrative are you still borrowing from somebody else? We're asking more questions in our remix for today. This is the thought portion. For example, if I stop showing up for everybody else, everything will fall apart. Here's the truth. If you don't show up for yourself, you will fall apart. Then you want to re-record. More questions. What action will realign your dominion today? For example, rewrite your calendar tonight around soul-driven apex priorities. Cancel what doesn't serve your spirit. Say no without justifying. Execute without apologizing. Hey, can you? Nope. Pause. No reason, no explanation. Are you that confident enough in yourself and in the relationship you have with yourself towards life, and in the relationship you have with the relationships you have in life. So just be like, nah, it's awkward. It's uncomfortable. Yo, but why not? I said no. I don't want to. No, no. Or say nothing. I already said no. There's nothing else to say. I had that experience the other day. Somebody's asking me a question. I said, listen, what we're talking about isn't conducive to the conversation or what we're trying to accomplish here. Therefore, I will not be replying to you anymore. I have nothing else to say. You asked another question. I didn't respond. And I kept it that way until somebody else said something because I'm done. I'm done. The answer is no. If you don't fight for your apex, your distractions will. And the worst part, they won't even announce the takeover. They'll slide in softly, call themselves necessary, look like opportunity, sound like love. But drift never screams, it whispers. And before you know it, you're crownless and compliant, working hard in the wrong direction, with your spirit screaming in the background, this ain't it. Reclaim your focus, reclaim your throne, and for the love of your future, stop living off borrowed momentum. Because misplaced attention isn't just wasted time. It's a full-blown betrayal of the kingdom inside you. You want dominion? Then divide everything that's not your God-given priority and move like the crown is back on. Own it or be owned by it. You either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.